Go and read my comic, it's free! Hey guys, CharrChan here, and today's video I'm drawing Elliot, who is one of my original characters, who will be appearing in my webcomic eventually, so keep an eye out for that. Chapter 2 is in the works, so go and read Chapter 1, but it's going to take me a while to get Chapter 2 out because, well, I'm busy with other work things, but also I think this story of today's video will also contribute to that delay. Anyway, so I'm sure you've already seen the title. Yes, I was in hospital, and that is why I didn't post a video last week, because I was in hospital, and I was admitted on Wednesday, which is the day I post my videos, and I didn't have a video ready to just post, so, whoops. Alright, so, let's get into the story of why I was admitted to hospital and what my stay was like, because hospital, if you don't know, if you do know me, you know that I really struggle with hospitals for personal reasons, which I will not be disclosing on the internet because that's my personal stuff, you know? So, don't ask. Alright, so, for the past, couple of weeks, I'd had some really bad back pain, and, you know, I thought I'd just overdone it. I'd done some cleaning, and I was like, yeah, I've just, strained my back, it'll be fine in a few days, I'll use a hot water bottle, it'll be fine. It was not fine, continued to hurt, then I developed a headache, and I was like, okay, that's not very good either, but it's fine. And then last Wednesday came around, and I went, Jesus Christ, I feel so ill. I wasn't nauseous, but I just felt really unwell and tired, and also really hot. So, I mean, it was bad, and I know it was bad because when I was getting dressed in the morning, normally I can stand up to put my socks on. I balance on one leg and I put one sock on at a time, obviously. Easy peasy. But on Wednesday, I had to sit on the floor and I put one sock on, and then I had to take a break before I put the second sock on. I wasn't out of breath, but I just felt so unwell and tired that I just couldn't do anything in a normal, easy way. So that was my first proper warning sign that something was really wrong. And then I was I need to go back to the doctors really badly now. Now, when it comes to medical things, I do get my mum to handle all of it, really, because of, my struggles with, medical stuff in hospitals. It's not easy for me to do, and I do need someone to do that for me. Again, I'm not going to disclose why that is, that's, my personal things. But yeah, I do live with my mum as well, my parents right now as well, so it's, easy for them to... Also, I can't drive, so someone else does have to take me to places, so sometimes it's just easier for my mum to ring and organise things because she knows when she can take me places. Anyway, the point is, they got me in for an emergency appointment that day, and yeah, they took me over, and I was in the GP, and they were like, yeah, you don't look very well, you look really unwell. So, yeah, that wasn't very good. They did some tests, and they were like, okay, I think you have either a kidney stone or a kidney infection, but we're not sure, so I'm gonna ring the hospital because you need to go to hospital, because at this point I had a 39°C fever. For context here, my regular healthy temperature is around 36.5, so 39 is really high for me, dangerously high, I would say. So yes, my GP was like, you need to go to the hospital, really badly. I'm gonna ring ahead and make sure they know you're coming so that you get seen somewhat quickly-ish. So I think he really wanted them to just be ready to take me in and do all the tests, but the hospital was like, well, we're not really sure we agree with just testing for those two things. We want to test for appendicitis and also a burst cyst, because I am known to get cysts and I do currently have a couple of them just chilling inside me. Very fun. Not really. But yeah, So, my doctor was like, okay, I rang ahead, take this letter with you, it's got all your information on, and we drove to the hospital. Before we went to the hospital though, we did stop at home and picked up a few things, packed a overnight bag, so just so that we were ready to be in the hospital overnight. So, we head to the hospital. My twin comes with me, my mum is with me, of course, so it was 3 of us. We get to A&E, we sit there for about half an hour, and then they call me in to do a little like initial consultation, it's like what's going on. Then we go back into the waiting room, my boyfriend arrives because he left work a little bit early just to make sure I was okay and come see me, so there was 4 of us sat in the waiting room. And then in the waiting room, while we were waiting for my blood test, there was this guy who was just being an absolute nuisance. Like, I don't think he needed to be there. The police had been coming to get him, and then the police were bringing him back. Because, the police didn't want him and the hospital didn't want him. I don't think he actually was ill, I think he was just a bit drunk, and, he was pestering, the other people in the waiting room, which isn't good. He was berating the staff. It wasn't very pleasant to, be in there with him, so we were just, avoiding eye contact, not looking at him. Yeah, not very fun. Especially when you're already, scared and stressed because you're ill. Yeah. Anyway, so the doctor I saw for the quick consultation said, okay, take a paracetamol because your temperature's getting really high. So I took my paracetamol. It was also really hot in the waiting room because they had the central heating on. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm so hot. Anyway, so another couple of hours pass and they finally do some blood tests on me, or they take some blood from me to send to be tested. And then they go back into the waiting room and it's another couple of hours and that really annoying guy is still there. Yeah. Anyway, so finally, they call me in and they're like, okay, here's a little bed you can lie on and here's a room just for you and your mum. My boyfriend took my twin back home and then he came back later with, what did he? I think he got some, he got some food, that's what he got. Speaking of food, when I got to that little, private waiting room, they were like, okay, you need to go for a CT scan. But, you cannot eat or drink anything until you've had the scan. I was like, oh, but I'm so hungry. Fortunately, I had eaten, half a sandwich in the waiting room before, so I wasn't, completely starving. That will change in the course of the story, so, yeah. Alright, so, the nurses, they come do my OBS, or observations, which is your pulse, your blood pressure, I think maybe your oxygen levels, but I'm not really sure how that was working, and also, of course, your temperature. I am in that room for a very, very long time, waiting for my CT scan. I could not eat anything, I could not drink any. I could drink little tiny sips of water I was allowed, but nothing else. And I did have to take a paracetamol because my temperature was just skyrocketing again. Yeah, not very fun. When my temperature just rapidly went up, I would just start shivering violently. They did actually have to put me on an IV drip. So, they, because I was going for a CT scan first of all, they had to put a cannula in my arm. Speaking of that, first they tried my right elbow, no luck. Then they tried my left elbow, also no luck. They were going to put it in my left forearm, and I went, wait, don't do that, put it in my right one. And fortunately, it worked in my right forearm. To be honest, I think that's probably a better place for it, because I would be so scared to bend my elbow if it was in my elbow. So I'm glad that it was in my forearm, because at least I could use my hands still. But yeah, it was not very fun. Also, your hand gets swollen, just slightly swollen. It feels all stiff when the cannula's in. It's not very fun at all. But yeah, they put me on an IV drip saline solution, I want to say, or like fluids or whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but they put me on some fluids and of course IV drip penicillin, just an antibiotic to get me started. There's a lot of antibiotics in this story. Right, so we are waiting for that CT scan until 3 in the morning. I took a few naps in that time, like a couple of naps, and I was so hungry. I was so hungry while I was waiting. Yeah, all I could do was like lie on that bed and just try and like relax because I kept shaking and shivering. It was not very fun. Finally, we go up to the CT scan, 3 in the morning. Now, if you've never had a CT scan before, it doesn't take very long, but they do also have to inject you with this blue, I assume it's blue, but I don't know what colour it is, a dye. They have to inject dye into your system. I don't know why I think it's blue for some reason. No one has ever mentioned the colour of the dye, I just assumed it was blue. I don't know why. Anyway, when they have to like pump the dye into your system, it feels so weird. You get so hot. They did warn me this would happen. You get hot everywhere. And you also feel like you've wet yourself. They did also warn me that would happen. They said, you're going to feel like you've wet yourself, but don't worry, you haven't. It's just the feeling of the dye being like in your system. Horrible. Never want to do that again. But, you know, I did the scan. It only took like, I want to say like 3 minutes. So not long at all. But yes, that's why the first reason they put the cannula in, because I needed the dye running through my system, and also I did need the IV drip with the fluids and the penicillin. So yeah. Alright, then they wheel me back to my little private waiting room, and it is 5 in the morning before they come and say, alright, we've got you a bed on a ward, and we're going to take you up there now, but first you need to have like a little checkup with the doctor there, because they had to test for some other things first. I was like, okay, fine. So yes, we go up there. Now, this is the point where things really start going south for me, because this is when things get really stressful for me. As I've already mentioned, hospitals are like really stressful for me, like really, really stressful for me, especially like specific things, which I will not be telling you about, but yeah, I really was not feeling it. So we get to this consultation room that was like just a waiting room when it was nighttime. So I'm waiting there, and then the doctor comes in and he's like, okay, we need to examine you. And this is when I was getting a little bit like worried, because I don't cope well with this. So my boyfriend comes with me to the examination room, and he's wonderful. Like, my boyfriend like really helped me through it. And I will say, the doctors and the nurses, they did everything correctly, and they were like wonderful about it. It was just that me personally, I was not having a good time. I mean, I'm scared because I'm sick and I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel really, really unwell. And also it's 5 in the morning and I'm really tired. So I do have a panic attack at that point, and not gonna lie, I did have one. Not very fun. No one's fault, it's just that, you know, I have problems. So, you know, that wasn't very fun. But, you know, the doctor handled it really well. It was all fine. Well, it wasn't fine for me, but you know what I mean. Anyway, then we go back through to the little, like, waiting room type bit, and they're like, okay, we can't let anyone stay in the ward with you because there's other people there, and I completely understand that, like, fully understand. However, I mean, at this point I was, like, distraught. I couldn't, like, nothing was really going in. Words were not going in, and words were very much not coming out. So I was like, oh Jesus Christ, this is not very good. Oh, and at this point I was allowed to eat at this point. They finally said you can eat some food. I had cold McDonald's fries, ignoring the fact that we're not supposed to go to McDonald's. It wasn't me who bought it. I didn't even request it. I was just going to eat anything I was given. Cold McDonald's fries. I ate about, I want to say 10 of them. I just gave up because I felt so ill. But yeah, I was also panicking because I wasn't allowed to have anyone with me in the ward while I was asleep. Really not fun. Like, really, really not fun. I think that maybe a little bit of common sense should have been used, like some judgment should have been used, and like, okay, you like really need someone to stay with you, so we'll waive the rules here a bit. I understand why, like, maybe they couldn't do that, but I mean, for my mum to have just like sat in the chair next to me with the curtains pulled round would have been fine. I don't think anyone would have had a problem with that, especially not like the next day when I chatted to all the people in the ward. Everyone was lovely, and none of them would have had a problem with it. So, yeah, not brilliant. Of course, I do fully understand why, but, you know, I think maybe it wasn't the best call, especially because the next day one of the staff actually agreed and was like, yeah, no, that's not very good of them. So yes, that was not very fun. Anyway, I think we spent enough time talking about that. So, it's 5:30 in the morning. I am so ill, I'm like practically blacking out. It's not very fun. My temperature has just skyrocketed again, and they're like, okay, you need to go lie down in this bed. Me being barely conscious just kind of went with it. So they wheel me through in a wheelchair to my bed, and I get up and I lie in the bed. I'm fully clothed. I'm too tired to like get changed into my nightie or anything. So yes, they put me on IV drip paracetamol as well as the penicillin and the fluids, I think. God, I don't know what was even in that IV drip. There's so many things. Yeah, you know it's bad when they have to put you on the IV drip paracetamol. Yeah. Alright, then what happened? I went to sleep. 5:30 in the morning. But it didn't last very long because at 8 in the morning my IV machine started beeping because it was going flat because no one had plugged it in. Yeah, not very fun. Aside from being like very disorientated when I woke up and then very disgruntled when I realised there was an IV machine beeping at me, I was also really embarrassed because it was like it's beeping and waking everyone else on the ward up. I don't think it actually woke many people up. Maybe the lady across from me, but she was lovely. But yeah, was not very fun. So, yeah, at that point, it wasn't long until they came around to take breakfast orders. I had some cornflakes, very much well-needed cornflakes. I don't even think it was lactose-free milk. For context here, I should have received lactose-free milk, but I didn't care. Did not care, just needed some food, didn't even think. I realised the next day when I also had cornflakes, when the milk tasted different, because I'd mentioned lactose-free, I was like, yeah, yesterday was like regular milk. But anyway, I was fine, so it didn't matter. But yes, my first, second day in hospital wasn't really very fun, again. My temperature just would not stay at a stable temperature. Again, as I said, my regular temperature is 36.5. It just kept, like, absolutely skyrocketing out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, it was when my paracetamol ran off, it just went straight up. Like, they would come and check, I was like, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit hot, and they would check, and I'm like, oh, you're 37.2, you're fine. Or like, oh, I don't know about that, I mean, that's not healthy for me, but they were like, no, it's fine. And of course, every time that would happen, and they would be like, yeah, 37's fine, 5 minutes later, I would be shivering uncontrollably, and my temperature would be back at the 38, so, maybe listen to your patients when they tell you that 37.2 is not a normal temperature for them, because, yeah, that happened every time that happens. But yeah, more paracetamol, and, it's actually funny, because on that day, the windows were open and they checked my temperature and it was like 36.7, I think. I was like, yeah, okay, that's like sort of normal. Maybe I'm shivering because I'm actually cold. So they got me like 5 different blankets because I was so cold. Well, I thought I was cold. And of course, 5 minutes later, I'm shivering uncontrollably again and my temperature is like 38 degrees. And like, okay, maybe blankets were not a good idea and you actually just needed some paracetamol. So, yes. They also bought me a fan just to cool me down, so I had the fan going, and my cold flannel. Cold flannels are my best friend. Can't go without them. And of course some water, drink some water, and my IV fluids and my IV penicillin. Yeah. So the second day was spent mostly just shivering and taking paracetamol to stop shivering. And then the lunch order came round, and I was like, oh yeah, curry! I'm going to order curry. Very excited. Curry's my favourite food. Lunch comes round, everyone gets there, I'm like, where's my food? They forgot my lunch! They didn't bring me my lunch, they forgot about me! Fortunately, my boyfriend was on his way and I asked him to pick up a Greg's, so I got some tomato soup and some chicken nuggets and some wedges, which is probably better because I had a curry the next day at the hospital, and it was not very good. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. There was only like 2 teaspoons worth of rice in it, like barely any at all. So that was, yeah. Anyway, so my second day at hospital goes not very fun, but we get through it. Then it's night time. I struggle to get to sleep at first, but we get there. My ward buddies, they are very supportive of me. I let them know what was going on with me and like why I was so panicky, and they were like, don't worry, we are here for you. They even offered to, like, a couple of them said, like, if you need us in the night, just get out of bed and come and like wake us up and we'll, sit and calm you down, which is really nice of them because none of us were very well. But yeah, I didn't need to wake anyone up, fortunately. But I was woken up myself at 3 a.m. when they wanted to check my temperature and check my blood pressure, and yeah, that wasn't very fun. When I woke up at 3 a.m. that time, I felt so sick. Like, I thought I was going to be sick. But I wasn't, so that was good. I just managed to, like, sit, calm myself down, have a cold flannel, and sip some lemonade, actually. That really helped. And then I got back to sleep. So yeah, the nurses did like come and make sure I was okay. That, they didn't just leave me. So yeah. Anyway, then they woke me up again at 6 a.m. and I felt equally as horrible. Not quite as bad as I did at 3 a.m, but pretty bad. But yes, I couldn't sleep after that. I was just awake. Then 8 o'clock came, breakfast, cornflakes again, this time lactose free, fortunately. And then lunch orders came out. They actually brought me my lunch that day, and that's when I had the kind of miserable curry. The second day was a lot better. They continued giving me the penicillin and my fluids via the IV drip. I chatted to my ward friends, neighbours, ward buddies, I don't know. And yeah, that's about it really. There's not much to report on. I mean, yeah, my mum and my boyfriend took it in shifts as to who was like with me during the day, and that's about it really. That's all I have to report on. So that night I really struggled to get to sleep. I did listen to some music and that helped, so I listened to the Eurocamp OST. That really helped. It's really relaxing and calm. And I listened to that all night. I had my headphones in all night and I fell asleep. And I had like a really good solid night's sleep because no one came to check my obs. Very good. Obviously they didn't need to check anything for me. I was obviously deemed healthy enough not to be woken up at 3 a.m, so that was good. And what else happened? Was that my final night? Yeah, that was my final night. They'd also switched me to a really, really, really strong antibiotic, which honestly I think helped so much because I felt a lot better that morning. I think I did 2 or 3 IV bags of that like really strong antibiotic. And then what happened? That day what did I do that day? I sat in my bed, I had many, many cups of tea, and then they came and discharged me. Well, they said I could go home if I wanted to. They said you don't have to go home if you don't feel well enough, and to be honest, I don't know if I did feel well enough to go home because I felt like pretty crap, if I'm being honest. But I wanted to go home because being in the hospital stressed me out so much. I'd kind of like gotten used to it, but it was when people had to leave me on a night that I was like more panicky. Speaking of which, my mum actually like went and explained the situation to some of the day staff, and they were like, you should have been allowed to stay, because like I was so distraught that I needed someone with me. So they actually did get special permission for my mum to come and stay in with me the third night, I think it was. Yeah, but she didn't need to. It was just if I needed her to come like and be with me, I could phone her and she could come in. But fortunately I didn't need anyone to come and rush to help me. Just knowing that the option was there calmed me down. But yes, that was not very fun. Anyway, back on track. They said I could go home, and I wanted to go home, so I did. And that's where I am currently. I've been at home for 3 days. I've been on some antibiotics that they gave me, and antibiotics do not make you feel very well. I know it's medicine to make you feel better, but when you are on them, you can feel pretty ill. Yeah, so haven't been feeling too brilliant. I'm still really tired. I've been having a lot of naps because I need them. I never nap during the day, but I needed a nap like multiple times during the days. Yeah. I also had a little shopping spree to cheer myself up, so expect a haul video soon enough. I mean, I think I deserved it after my ordeal. Yeah. Well, that's why I was in hospital. We don't actually know what was wrong with me. I was supposed to be sent for a scan, but they never got me in for anything other than my CT scan, just to like make sure nothing had like ruptured and I wasn't actively dying. Yeah. But yes, I do have an appointment to go back for another scan, not a CT scan fortunately. But yes, what we think might have caused my really bad illness, this is just speculation, but what we've kind of pieced together is maybe that my already existing medical condition was doing something to me, along with just an off-chance bacterial infection that just got really bad. Like, I could have got it from anywhere, just random chance had some kind of infection that just really was not going very well. Don't know what it could have been. I did a COVID test, of course, came back negative, then they did one in the hospital as well, also negative, so it wasn't the Rona. Yeah, I think it was just like my medical condition doing something to me, and then also just a random bacterial infection that just happened to get really, really bad. So that is my story of hospital time, and this video is like half an hour long, so I hope this drawing lasts long enough to do that. This speed paint's going to be like a really slow-paced speed paint, because this was a really long story, and I do know that I rambled. I definitely rambled in this, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed the story. I'm going to sign off now and, I don't know, relax, probably. Yeah. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please do not hit the like button, as that probably hurts and not very nice, so maybe shake his hand instead. With that being said, I hope to see you in the next one, and bye!